A black family's summer vacation takes a dark turn when two local cops target the mother and her young son at a resort pool, mistaking them for easy prey. The officers see only a vulnerable family, just a mother and child, alone, powerless, outnumbered. Their intimidation escalates, fueled by arrogance and prejudice. What they don't know is the boy's father isn't just any husband. He's a seasoned FBI agent, trained to fight for justice. When the threat to his family reaches its peak, he steps in, ready to show these officers exactly what happens when they target the wrong family. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of the Taylor family home, casting warm patches of light across the living room floor. Suitcases lay open, surrounded by carefully folded clothes and vacation essentials. 8-year-old Elijah bounced on his toes as he clutched his favorite blue swim goggles. "Mom, did you pack my new swim shorts?" Elijah asked, his eyes bright with anticipation. "The ones with the sharks on them?" Samantha smiled, checking a neat pile of clothes. "Right here, sweetie." "Already packed them." She tucked the swim shorts into his suitcase, along with extra towels and sunscreen. Malcolm emerged from their bedroom, his FBI badge and gun secured in their usual hiding spot. He'd promised himself no work on this vacation. His family needed this time together. "Everyone almost ready?" he asked, picking up their heaviest bag with ease. "Almost done," Samantha replied, zipping up the last suitcase. "Elijah, honey, can you do one last check of your room? Make sure you didn't forget anything important." As Elijah scampered off, Malcolm wrapped his arms around Samantha from behind. "You okay?" he asked softly, noting the slight tension in her shoulders. "Just want everything to be perfect," she said, leaning back against him. "It's been so long since we've had a real family vacation." "It will be," Malcolm assured her, his voice steady and confident. "No cases, no grading papers, just us." Elijah returned, clutching his tablet. "Got everything." They loaded the car methodically, with Malcolm arranging the bags like puzzle pieces in the trunk of their SUV. Samantha did one final house check, while Elijah settled into his favorite spot in the back seat, already playing with his tablet. The suburban streets were quiet as they pulled away from their house. Elijah pressed his face against the window, watching their neighborhood fade behind them. "How long until we get there?" he asked, the first of what would likely be many such questions. "About 4 hours, champ," Malcolm answered, adjusting the rearview mirror. "We'll stop for lunch along the way." The highway stretched before them, and Samantha pulled out their carefully planned route. They'd chosen a scenic drive, avoiding the major cities. The car filled with the sound of their favorite road trip playlist, a mix of classic soul, modern pop, and Elijah's cartoon theme songs. 2 hours into their journey, hunger started to set in. They pulled into a small roadside diner, its neon open sign buzzing in the late morning sun. The parking lot was half full, mostly pickup trucks and local plates. As they walked in, the cheerful bell above the door couldn't mask the sudden dip in conversation. Several heads turned, lingering looks following them to their booth. Samantha squeezed Elijah's hand gently, guiding him to sit between her and Malcolm. Their waitress approached, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "Welcome to Betty's. What can I get y'all to drink?" They ordered sodas for Elijah and themselves, trying to ignore the whispers from nearby tables. Elijah buried his face in the children's menu, his earlier excitement dimming slightly. Malcolm maintained his calm demeanor, though Samantha noticed his jaw tightening. Under the table, she reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining in silent support. "Look, they have chocolate chip pancakes," Samantha said brightly to Elijah, pointing at the menu. His face lit up again, momentarily forgetting the uncomfortable atmosphere. Their food arrived quickly, perhaps too quickly, as if the staff wanted them in and out. They ate their meal, keeping the conversation light and focused on their upcoming vacation plans. "The lake's supposed to be perfect for swimming," Malcolm told Elijah, who perked up at the mention of his favorite activity. "And I heard they have an amazing pool, too." Back on the road, the tension from the diner slowly dissipated. The landscape changed as they drove, suburban sprawl giving way to rolling hills and eventually the promise of lake country. Late afternoon sun painted the sky in warm hues when they finally pulled up to the lakeside resort. The building rose impressively against the waterfront, its windows gleaming. Luxury cars filled the parking lot, and well-dressed guests strolled the manicured grounds. At the front desk, the clerk's professional smile faltered slightly as they approached. Her eyes darted between them and their reservation details. "Welcome to Lakeside Resort," she said, her tone overly formal. "I have your reservation here, Mr. Taylor." Malcolm handed over his credit card and ID, his FBI credentials safely tucked away. They'd agreed. No special treatment, no pulling rank. This was supposed to be a normal family vacation. The clerk's fingers clicked rapidly on her keyboard, her eyes occasionally flicking up to study them. "You're in room 342, she said finally, sliding over their key cards. "Third floor, Lakeview." She paused, adding with practiced politeness, "Please note our pool and facility rules are strictly enforced for all guests." They made their way to their suite, rolling their luggage across plush carpeting. Other guests in the hallway moved to the far side as they passed, polite smiles masking obvious discomfort. Their room was spacious, with large windows overlooking the sparkling lake. Elijah immediately ran to the window, pressing his hands against the glass. "Can we go swimming now?" "Let's unpack first, honey," Samantha said, already organizing their clothes into drawers. Malcolm did a subtle sweep of the room. Old habits died hard, before starting to unpack his own suitcase. After unpacking, they decided to explore the resort grounds. Elijah practically bounced down the hallway, his energy renewed after the long car ride. The resort's elegant interior featured crystal chandeliers and expensive artwork, but Samantha couldn't help noticing how the few other black guests they passed gave them knowing looks of recognition. "Look at the pool!" Elijah pressed his face against the glass windows overlooking the outdoor area. The massive pool sparkled in the evening light, complete with a waterfall feature and connected hot tubs. "Please, can we go swimming now?" "Please?" "Dinner first," Samantha said firmly, though her heart ached at his eager expression. "We need to eat something proper after that lunch at the diner." They toured the rest of the facilities, a well-equipped gym, a spa that Samantha mentally bookmarked, and various sitting areas with stunning lake views. Throughout their walk, they noticed the overwhelming whiteness of both guests and staff. The few employees of color they saw worked primarily in housekeeping or kitchen roles. The hotel restaurant occupied a grand space, with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the lake. A hostess led them to a table, her professional smile never wavering, though her eyes kept darting to other guests' reactions. The white tablecloth gleamed under subtle lighting, and soft jazz played in the background. "The grilled chicken looks good," Samantha said, studying the menu. "Elijah, they have mac and cheese on the kids' menu." "Can I get a chocolate milk too?" Elijah asked, his legs swinging under the table. Malcolm nodded, but his attention had shifted to the bar area. Two men sat there, both wearing casual clothes that couldn't quite hide their law enforcement bearing. One was older, around Malcolm's age, with a weathered face and cold eyes. The younger one beside him carried himself with aggressive confidence. Both were nursing drinks and casting occasional glances at the Taylor family. Malcolm recognized the older one, Detective Greg Marks, from an FBI briefing about local law enforcement. Nothing concrete, but there had been whispers about excessive force complaints that mysteriously disappeared. The younger officer was unfamiliar, but his body language screamed rookie with something to prove. Samantha noticed Malcolm's slight tension. "Everything okay?" she asked quietly, while Elijah colored his kid's menu. "Fine," Malcolm replied, his voice low. "Just some local police at the bar. Nothing to worry about." Their server approached, a young white woman who seemed more genuinely friendly than most staff they'd encountered. She took their orders efficiently, though her smile faltered when she noticed the officers watching their table. Throughout dinner, Malcolm kept his back to the bar, but he could feel the officers' stares. He focused instead on Elijah's excited chatter about swimming plans and Samantha's gentle reminders to use his inside voice. The food was excellent. Perfectly grilled chicken for Samantha, a well-prepared steak for Malcolm, and Elijah declared the mac and cheese almost as good as Mom's. Yet the weight of unwanted attention made the meal less enjoyable than it should have been. When they finished, Malcolm signed the check to their room. As they stood to leave, he heard one of the officers mutter something, followed by low laughter. He kept walking, his hand gentle but firm on Elijah's shoulder, guiding his family toward the exit. Back in their suite, the tension slowly melted away. Elijah immediately went to his drawer, pulling out his shark-patterned swim trunks and laying them carefully on a chair. "They're ready for tomorrow," he announced proudly. Samantha sat on the edge of their king-sized bed, kicking off her shoes with a sigh of relief. "Come here, baby," she called to Elijah, who bounded over. She pulled him into a tight hug, breathing in his familiar scent. Malcolm stood by the window, looking out at the lake now silvered by moonlight. The view was beautiful, but his mind kept returning to those officers at the bar. He pushed the thought away. He'd promised himself no work on this trip. "Daddy, will you come swimming with me tomorrow?" Elijah asked, breaking Malcolm's reverie. Malcolm turned from the window, his expression softening. "Of course, champ. First thing after breakfast." They went through their bedtime routine, Elijah brushing his teeth while Samantha laid out his clothes for tomorrow, Malcolm double-checking the door lock and drawing the curtains. Despite the king bed in the main room and the pull-out sofa in the sitting area, Elijah begged to sleep in the big bed with them, just for the first night. "Please! It's a special vacation," he pleaded, giving them his best puppy dog eyes. Samantha and Malcolm exchanged glances, then smiled. "Just for tonight," Samantha agreed. They settled into bed, Elijah snug between them, his excitement about tomorrow's swimming plans gradually giving way to drowsiness. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the air conditioning and the distant sound of waves on the lake shore. Morning sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting warm stripes across the hotel room floor. Elijah was already up, practically vibrating with excitement as he changed into his swim trunks. Samantha packed their pool bag while Malcolm adjusted his tie in the mirror. "You sure you can't come swimming with us?" Elijah asked, his voice hopeful as he watched his father prepare to leave. Malcolm's expression softened. "Sorry, champ. Just got a few quick errands to run. I'll join you both later, okay?" Samantha knew better. Those errands meant checking on his ongoing case. But they'd agreed not to discuss work details in front of Elijah. She helped their son apply sunscreen, making sure to cover his ears and the back of his neck. "Ready, baby?" she asked, shouldering their beach bag filled with towels, water bottles, and her latest novel. "Ready!" Elijah bounced on his toes, already heading for the door. The pool area was still relatively quiet this early. A few elderly couples occupied lounge chairs, and two women did lazy laps in the deeper end. The water sparkled invitingly in the morning light, the waterfall feature creating a peaceful background rhythm. "Remember the rules," Samantha said, as they claimed two chairs in a sunny spot. "No running, no diving in the shallow end, and stay where I can see you." "I know, Mom," Elijah said, but he was already edging toward the water. Samantha watched him ease in via the steps, his face lighting up at the perfect temperature. She settled into her chair, pulling out her book, but keeping one eye on Elijah. He was a strong swimmer for his age, moving confidently through the water. His joy was infectious. Several older guests smiled at his obvious delight. The peaceful morning lasted about 20 minutes before the first interruption. A young staff member in a polo shirt approached their chairs, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am. Could I see your room key? Just a routine check." Samantha noticed he hadn't asked the same of any other guests, but she kept her voice neutral. "Of course." She pulled out their key card, watching his face as he verified it. "Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Enjoy your stay." He walked away, but the moment had shifted something in the atmosphere. Elijah continued swimming, oblivious to the interaction. He'd made friends with another boy about his age, and they were taking turns seeing who could hold their breath longer. Samantha tried to return to her book, but the words wouldn't quite focus. That's when she noticed them, Detective Marks and Officer Riley, now in swimming trunks, emerging from the men's changing room. They claimed chairs directly across the pool, positioning themselves with a clear view of Samantha and Elijah. The temperature seemed to drop despite the warming sun. Marks sprawled in his chair with calculated casualness, while Riley sat forward, elbows on knees, watching Elijah's every move. Neither entered the pool. Samantha kept her face carefully neutral, though her heart rate had picked up. She wished Malcolm were here, but no, she could handle this. She was a grown woman, with every right to be here with her son. Other guests began to notice the tension. The elderly couples whispered to each other. The two women doing laps got out and left. Elijah's new friend was called away by his mother, who cast an apologetic glance at Samantha. "Mom, watch this," Elijah called, executing a perfect underwater somersault. Samantha clapped appropriately, hyper-aware of Riley leaning forward to track the movement. "Getting tired yet, baby?" she called. But Elijah shook his head, splashing happily in the now empty pool. The officers maintained their surveillance for another 15 minutes. Samantha felt their eyes like a physical weight, but she refused to be intimidated into leaving. Finally, Elijah paddled to the edge of the pool. "I'm hungry," he announced. "Okay, let's dry off and—" Samantha began, but the officers were already moving. They approached with deliberate steps, Marks in the lead with Riley flanking him. Water dripped from Elijah onto the concrete as he stood close to Samantha's chair, sensing the sudden tension. "Ma'am," Marks said, his tone falsely pleasant, "we're going to need to see some identification." His voice carried across the pool area, drawing everyone's attention. "And your room key," Riley added, rocking slightly on his feet, "just to verify you're supposed to be here." Samantha felt her face grow hot as other guests stared. Elijah pressed against her side, water from his swim trunks soaking into her cover-up. She could feel him trembling slightly. "I already showed my room key to your staff member," she said evenly, though her heart pounded. "Less than an hour ago." "Well, now you can show it to us," Marks said, his smile never reaching his cold eyes. "Along with some ID, unless there's a problem?" Samantha took a deep breath, steadying herself. "I have both right here," she said, reaching for her bag while keeping Elijah close. Her fingers trembled slightly as she pulled out her ID and room key. Marks snatched them from her hand, examining them with exaggerated scrutiny. His lip curled as he read her name. "These could be fake," he declared, loud enough for everyone to hear. "They're not fake," Samantha said firmly, though her heart raced. "As I said, your staff already verified—" "Listen here," Riley cut in, stepping closer. His face was red with barely contained anger. "This place is for whites. We've had enough of your kind causing trouble." Gasps rippled through the gathering crowd. Several guests had their phones out, recording the confrontation. Elijah pressed closer to Samantha, his wet body shaking against her side. "My kind?" Samantha's voice rose slightly. "We are paying guests just like everyone else here." Marks's hand shot out, grabbing Samantha's arm roughly. "That's it. You're leaving. Now!" "Don't touch my mom," Elijah cried, clinging to Samantha's other arm. "Let go of me," Samantha demanded, trying to pull away. "You're hurting me." Riley moved behind them, shoving Samantha toward the pool steps. "Move it, or we'll make you move." Elijah started crying, his grip on Samantha tightening. Other guests called out in protest, but no one intervened. The hotel staff hung back, watching nervously. "I said let go." Samantha struggled against Marks's grip, trying to protect Elijah from Riley's aggressive pushing. Suddenly, a towel flew through the air, landing on a nearby chair. Malcolm appeared, his presence commanding immediate attention. His suit jacket was gone, sleeves rolled up, revealing powerful forearms. "Take your hands off my wife. Now." His voice was low but carried across the now silent pool area. Riley spun around, shoving Malcolm's chest. "Back off! This isn't your business." Malcolm moved with fluid precision, catching Riley's arm and twisting it behind his back in one smooth motion. Riley yelped in pain, his knees buckling. Marks released Samantha, lunging at Malcolm with a roar. Malcolm sidestepped, using Marks's momentum to send him crashing into a deck chair. The chair clattered across the concrete as Marks sprawled ungracefully. Riley scrambled up, pulling a collapsible baton from his swim trunk pocket. He snapped it open with a metallic click. "Drop it," Malcolm ordered, but Riley swung wildly. Malcolm blocked the strike and grabbed Riley's wrist, applying precise pressure. The baton clattered to the ground as Riley howled. Malcolm kicked the weapon away, maintaining his hold on the officer. "Federal agent!" Malcolm's voice boomed across the pool area as he pulled his FBI badge from his back pocket. "Stand down, both of you!" The crowd fell completely silent. Phones recorded everything. Marks froze halfway to his feet, his face draining of color. Riley stopped struggling, his mouth hanging open in shock. Karen Foster, the hotel manager, came running with 2 security guards in tow. She took in the scene, the crying child, the scattered deck chair, the dropped baton, the crowd of recording guests. What's happening here?" she stammered, looking between Malcolm and the officers. "These officers assaulted my wife and terrified my son," Malcolm said, his voice controlled but fierce. "They attempted to forcibly remove them from the pool based solely on their race. When I intervened, they attacked me, a federal agent." The security guards exchanged uncertain glances. Karen's face went pale. "We didn't know," Marks began, but Malcolm cut him off. "You didn't know what? That they were guests? That they had every right to be here? That assaulting them was illegal? Or just that her husband could fight back?" Marks and Riley backed away, their earlier bravado completely deflated. The crowd had grown larger, with guests calling out support for the Taylors and condemnation for the officers. "This is outrageous," an elderly woman declared. "I saw the whole thing. They attacked that poor woman and her child. We have it all on video," another guest added, waving his phone. Malcolm moved to his family, wrapping one arm around Samantha while keeping his eyes on the officers. Samantha hugged Elijah close, her body trembling but her head held high. Elijah buried his face in her side, still crying softly. The news spread rapidly through the resort. Guests gathered in clusters, sharing videos and expressing their disgust. Hotel staff whispered among themselves, some looking ashamed, others angry at the officers. "Mrs. Taylor, Mr. Taylor," Karen said, wringing her hands. "I cannot express how deeply sorry." "Save it," Malcolm cut her off. "This isn't over. Not by a long shot." Karen Foster hovered near the Taylors, her professional smile strained. "Please, let me make this right. We'll upgrade you to our lakeside suite immediately, at no extra charge, of course. And all your meals will be complimentary for the duration of your stay." Malcolm kept his arm around Samantha, who was still trembling slightly. "What we want is accountability, not bribes." Of course, Karen nodded quickly. "I've already contacted Chief Evans. He's personally coming to address this situation." "Good," Malcolm said firmly, "because those officers need to face consequences." As they gathered their belongings from the pool area, several guests approached quietly to offer support. "What those officers did was disgraceful," whispered an elderly woman, patting Samantha's arm. "We saw everything. My husband recorded it all." A young couple with children Elijah's age stopped nearby. "We're so sorry this happened," the mother said. "Our kids would love to swim with Elijah tomorrow, if you're comfortable with that." Samantha managed a small smile, grateful for their kindness. "Thank you. That means a lot." In their new suite, spacious and overlooking the lake, Elijah sat close to Samantha on the couch, while Malcolm paced, making phone calls. A knock at the door announced Chief Richard Evans's arrival. The police chief cut an imposing figure in his crisp uniform, but his attempt at a sympathetic expression seemed rehearsed. "Mr. and Mrs. Taylor, I want to personally apologize for the unprofessional conduct of my officers." Malcolm crossed his arms. "Unprofessional. They assaulted my wife and traumatized my son." "A regrettable misunderstanding," Evans said smoothly. "Officers Marks and Riley have been placed on administrative leave pending review. We take these matters very seriously." "Administrative leave isn't enough," Samantha spoke up, her voice steady despite her anger. "They should be fired and charged." Evans spread his hands. "We'll conduct a thorough investigation. But surely we can resolve this without escalating matters further? These officers have families too. They should have thought about that before attacking mine," Malcolm replied coldly. After Evans left, there was another knock. A woman with a press badge stood in the hallway. "Cassie Flores, local news. I'd love to get your perspective on what happened today." Malcolm shook his head. "No comment at this time." "I understand," Cassie said, slipping him her card. "But there's more to this story than you know. Call me if you change your mind." That evening, they went to dinner in the hotel restaurant. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Other diners stared openly or whispered behind their menus. The waitstaff was professionally polite but cold. Elijah pushed his food around his plate, subdued. "I'm not very hungry, Mom." "Try to eat a little more, sweetie," Samantha encouraged, though her own appetite had vanished when she noticed their server glaring at them from across the room. "Maybe we should go," she murmured to Malcolm. "I don't like how that waiter keeps looking at us." Malcolm nodded, signaling for the check. As they walked back to their suite, other guests quickly moved aside, some avoiding eye contact entirely. Samantha unlocked their door, then froze. A piece of paper had been slipped underneath while they were gone. Her hands shook as she picked it up and read the message, written in block letters. "Get out while you can." "Malcolm," she called softly, holding out the note. He took it, jaw tightening as he read. "I'm calling hotel security. They're probably the ones who let whoever did this onto our floor," Samantha said bitterly. Elijah looked between his parents, sensing their tension. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, baby," Samantha assured him, but her voice wavered. "Why don't you get ready for bed?" Once Elijah was in the bathroom, Malcolm pulled Samantha close. "We're not leaving," he said firmly. "That's exactly what they want." "I know," she whispered against his chest. "But I'm scared, Malcolm. Not for us. For Elijah. Did you see how quiet he was at dinner? This is affecting him." "We'll protect him," Malcolm promised, though his expression was grim. "And we'll make sure everyone responsible for this faces consequences." Samantha pulled back to look at him. "They're targeting us now, all because we dared to stand up to them." "Then they picked the wrong family to mess with," Malcolm said, his voice hard with determination. He carefully folded the threatening note and placed it in an evidence bag from his briefcase. Every action they take just gives us more proof of their corruption. The sound of running water from the bathroom stopped, and Elijah emerged in his pajamas. Despite everything, he managed a small smile when he saw his parents hugging. "Can we watch a movie before bed?" he asked hopefully. "Of course we can, sweetheart," Samantha said, forcing cheerfulness into her voice. But as she settled onto the couch with her family, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of their troubles. The next morning, sunlight streamed through the suite's windows, but it did little to lift the heavy atmosphere. Malcolm and Samantha stood in the bedroom, speaking in hushed tones, while Elijah watched cartoons in the living room. "I don't like this, Malcolm," Samantha said, holding up the threatening note from the night before. "Someone got access to our floor, right to our door." Malcolm ran his hand over his face, the lack of sleep evident in his eyes. "The security here is a joke. No cameras in the hallways, minimal staff coverage. It's like they want to keep things off the record. What are we going to do?" Samantha crossed her arms, glancing toward the door where Elijah sat beyond. "I need to dig deeper," Malcolm said firmly. "There's more going on here than just two racist cops. The hotel staff, the management, they're all connected somehow." "I should take Elijah out for the day," Samantha suggested. "That amusement park we passed on the way in? It might help get his mind off things." Malcolm nodded. "Good idea. Keep your phone on and stay alert. I don't trust anyone in this town anymore." In the living room, Elijah looked up as his parents emerged. "Can we go swimming today?" Samantha forced a bright smile. "Actually, honey, I thought we could do something even better. How about that big amusement park we saw?" Elijah's face lit up slightly, though not with his usual enthusiasm. "Really? Can Dad come too?" "Dad has some work to do," Malcolm said, kneeling beside his son. "But you two are going to have an amazing time. Get me one of those giant pretzels, okay?" After Samantha and Elijah left, Malcolm began his investigation. He started at the front desk, asking pointed questions about security protocols and guest access. The young clerk stammered through vague answers before calling for a supervisor. "I'm sorry, sir," the supervisor said stiffly. "Our security measures are confidential. If you have concerns, please speak with management." Malcolm noticed how the staff whispered when they thought he wasn't looking. In the security office, he found locked doors and hostile faces. "Private area!" a guard barked. "Guests not allowed." Near the pool, Malcolm discovered the security cameras were positioned to miss key areas, a deliberate blind spot that couldn't be accidental. As he made notes on his phone, movement in the parking lot caught his attention. Detective Marks and Officer Riley stood by their patrol car, gesturing angrily at Karen Foster. Even from a distance, Malcolm could see the tension in their body language. Karen jabbed her finger at them before storming back inside, leaving the officers fuming. Meanwhile, at the amusement park, Samantha tried to maintain a normal day for Elijah. They rode the carousel and played carnival games, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. "Look, Mom!" Elijah called out, pointing to a roller coaster. "Can we ride that one?" As they stood in line, Samantha noticed a security guard speaking into his radio while staring in their direction. Later, at the concession stand, the server's smile vanished when she handed over their change. "Mommy," Elijah whispered during lunch, "why are those people taking pictures of us?" Samantha turned to see a group quickly lowering their phones. Her heart raced. "They're probably just tourists, baby. Here, try these nachos. They're really good." But Elijah's observation skills were sharp. Throughout the day, he grew quieter, staying closer to his mother's side. The excitement of the rides couldn't fully mask the undercurrent of tension. By late afternoon, they returned to the hotel, emotionally drained. Malcolm was waiting in their suite, his expression grim as he hugged them both. "Did you find anything?" Samantha asked quietly while Elijah went to wash up. "Plenty of suspicious behavior," Malcolm replied. But they're being careful. No one's talking, and there's conveniently no surveillance where we need it. Elijah came back, climbing onto the couch between them. His small shoulders slumped. Dad, the kids at the park today, they were different. Different how, buddy? Malcolm asked gently. They pointed at me and whispered things. Elijah's voice grew small. One boy said his dad told him not to play with people like me. Samantha pulled him close, meeting Malcolm's pained gaze over their son's head. Oh, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. I tried to ignore them, like you said, Elijah continued, but there were so many. Even the grown-ups looked at us funny. Malcolm's jaw clenched. You did nothing wrong, son. Those people, they're the ones with the problem, not you. But why? Elijah asked, his eyes filling with tears. We didn't do anything bad. We just wanted to swim. Samantha stroked his hair, her own eyes wet. Some people let fear and hate make them do terrible things, but we're not going to let them win. That's right, Malcolm agreed firmly. We're going to stand up to them. Together. That evening, after Elijah had fallen into an uneasy sleep on the suite's pull-out couch, Malcolm and Samantha sat at the small dining table, their voices low but determined. We're not running, Samantha declared, gripping her phone tightly. That's exactly what they want. Malcolm nodded, his laptop open before him. Agreed. But we need to be smart about this. These people have been getting away with this behavior for too long. Samantha pulled up her contacts list. I'm calling Diane at the Civil Rights Legal Defense Fund. She helped when my school tried to push out those immigrant families last year. While Samantha stepped onto the balcony to make her call, Malcolm dove into public records. His FBI credentials gave him access to databases ordinary citizens couldn't reach. Article after article revealed a pattern. Complaints filed against the local police department, particularly involving Marks and Riley, that mysteriously disappeared. 20 minutes later, Samantha returned, her expression brightening. Diane's sending a legal team tomorrow. She says we need to document everything and gather witness statements while they're fresh. Good, Malcolm said, turning his laptop to show her. Look at this. 3 similar incidents in the past year alone. All minorities. All at this resort. All involving those 2 officers. Samantha leaned closer, reading. But no formal charges? No investigations? Everything got buried. Complaints withdrawn. Witnesses suddenly uncooperative. Malcolm's voice hardened. Classic intimidation tactics. A soft ping from Samantha's phone interrupted them. She opened her social media app and gasped. Malcolm, look at this. Her post about the pool incident from that morning had exploded. Thousands of shares, hundreds of comments. Many expressed outrage and support, while others shared similar experiences. This one, Samantha pointed to a particular comment. From someone named Marcus Williams. He says the same thing happened to his family here last summer. Malcolm read the comment carefully. He left his email. Should we reach out? Already typing? Samantha replied, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Within minutes, Marcus responded. They switched to a private chat, and soon Samantha was on the phone with him, taking notes while Malcolm listened on speaker. They cornered my wife at the pool. Marcus's voice trembled with anger. Said she didn't look like she belonged. When I complained to management, things got ugly. Strange calls at night, police following us around town. What made you finally leave? Samantha asked. They threatened our kids, Marcus replied quietly. Said they knew which school they attended. We couldn't risk it. Malcolm's expression darkened. Did you try reporting it? To who? The local police chief called personally to advise us against making waves. The hotel offered a full refund if we signed an NDA. We just wanted to get our family home safe. After the call ended, Samantha's hands shook slightly. They're monsters, Malcolm. Using their badges to terrorize families. But They've never dealt with someone who could fight back on their level, Malcolm said, his voice steel-edged. They're used to intimidating civilians who can't access the same resources. Samantha's phone pinged again. Her post had now been shared by several civil rights organizations. Justice for the Taylors was trending locally. We need to be careful, Malcolm warned. The more attention this gets, the more desperate they'll become. Let them, Samantha said firmly. The whole world can see what they're doing now. They worked late into the night, Malcolm compiling evidence while Samantha coordinated with online supporters and prepared statements for the legal team's arrival. Around midnight, a small sound made them both freeze. Elijah stood in the bedroom doorway, his eyes wide with fear. "There's someone at the window," he whispered. Malcolm moved instantly, positioning himself between his family and the window while drawing his backup weapon. "Stay with your mother," he ordered quietly. The curtains swayed slightly in the breeze from the air conditioning. Malcolm approached cautiously, scanning the darkness beyond the glass. The window overlooked a small courtyard, 3 stories below. "I saw a shadow," Elijah insisted, clutching Samantha's hand. "Like a person, but all dark." Malcolm checked the window locks, secure. He called hotel security, who arrived quickly, but seemed more interested in why the Taylors were awake so late than in investigating. "I'll check the grounds," the guard said dismissively. Malcolm followed him down. In the courtyard, beneath their window, fresh footprints marked the muddy flower bed. They led directly to a service entrance, staff only. The guard shrugged. Probably just maintenance. They work late sometimes. But Malcolm noted how the guard avoided his eyes, how quickly he wanted to leave. Back in the suite, he found Samantha comforting a shaken Elijah. The footprints led to a staff door, Malcolm told her softly. "They're letting people access the grounds at night." Samantha hugged Elijah closer. "We're not sleeping separately tonight." They pushed the living room furniture aside and pulled all the mattresses together on the floor. As they settled in, Elijah between them, Malcolm kept his weapon close. "Try to sleep, buddy," he soothed. "We're right here." But even as his son's breathing eventually steadied into sleep, Malcolm stayed alert, watching the window. The shadow had sent a clear message. They could get close any time. But if they thought this would make the Taylors run, they had severely miscalculated. Dawn crept into their makeshift bedroom on the floor, where the Taylor family had spent an uneasy night. Malcolm had dozed fitfully, waking at every small sound. Samantha had kept Elijah close, her arm protectively draped over him even in sleep. A gentle knock at the door made them all start. Malcolm approached cautiously, weapon ready but concealed. "Room service!" a cheerful voice called. Through the peephole, Malcolm saw a young staff member with a large bouquet of flowers and a covered breakfast tray. He opened the door partially, blocking the entrance with his body. "Compliments of management," the server said, trying to peer around Malcolm. "And this note." Malcolm took the items without inviting him in. The flowers were expensive, roses and lilies arranged artfully in a crystal vase. The note, on heavy hotel stationery, expressed deepest regrets for any misunderstandings. Samantha read it over his shoulder and scoffed. "Misunderstandings? That's what they're calling assault and harassment now?" "They're trying to buy our silence," Malcolm said, setting the flowers aside. "Make it look like everything's resolved." Elijah poked at the breakfast tray. Belgian waffles, fresh fruit, premium coffee. "Can we eat it?" "It's safe," Malcolm assured him, though he understood his son's hesitation. "But it doesn't change anything." Samantha pulled out her phone, scrolling through contacts. "I'm calling that reporter, Cassie, the one who wanted to interview us yesterday. Maybe she can help expose what's really happening here." Malcolm nodded slowly. "Good idea. But let's meet somewhere public." An hour later, they sat in a busy coffee shop downtown. Cassie Flores arrived right on time, notebook in hand. her sharp eyes taking in every detail. Malcolm had positioned them at a corner table with clear sight lines to all exits. "Thank you for meeting me," Cassie said, setting up a small recorder. "I've been trying to crack this story for months." "What story exactly?" Malcolm asked, studying her carefully. Cassie glanced around before leaning in. "The systematic harassment of minorities at local hotels, particularly by certain officers. But every time I get close to proof, it vanishes. Sources back out. Evidence disappears." Samantha shared their experiences: the pool confrontation, the threatening note, the shadow at their window. Malcolm discreetly activated his phone's recording app under the table. "Classic pattern," Cassie nodded, taking rapid notes. "They start with verbal harassment, escalate to physical intimidation, then target family members. The hotels are always complicit. They need the police to overlook certain activities, so they play along." "What activities?" Malcolm pressed. Cassie's expression turned guarded. "I can't prove anything yet. But there are rumors about money laundering, drug trafficking through the service entrances. The resort network provides perfect cover. And they use racial harassment to drive away anyone who might notice patterns," Samantha concluded. "Exactly." Cassie showed them photos on her phone. Other families who'd been targeted, police reports that had been altered, security footage timestamps that didn't match official records. "Why hasn't anyone stopped them?" Elijah asked suddenly. He'd been so quiet they'd almost forgotten he was there, drawing on a napkin. Cassie's face softened. "Because they're very good at making problems go away, honey. My editor won't run stories without solid proof, and that proof keeps disappearing. Last month, my apartment was broken into. Nothing taken, just my research files gone." Malcolm's hand tightened on his cup. "You're taking a risk talking to us." "Someone has to stand up to them," Cassie said firmly. "And you're different. They weren't expecting an FBI agent. Plus, with social media attention now—" "We have copies of everything," Samantha assured her. "Multiple backups, secure locations." "Smart." Cassie finished her coffee and gathered her things. "I'll start writing the story today. But be careful. These people, the cops, the hotel management, they've had years to perfect their system." She stood to leave, then paused, her expression grave. "They don't play fair here. Watch your backs." They watched through the window as Cassie walked to her car, an older model sedan with a small dent in the passenger door. Malcolm memorized the plate number, already planning to run a protection detail check on her. "She's scared," Samantha observed quietly, "but she's still fighting." "Like us," Elijah said, showing them his napkin drawing, 3 stick figures standing together, facing down a group of angry-looking figures in police uniforms. Malcolm studied his son's artwork, noting how the family figures stood tall while the officers looked distorted, almost monstrous. Children's drawings often revealed deep truths. "Yes, buddy," he said, carefully folding the napkin to keep. "Like us." Through the window, they watched Cassie's car disappear around a corner. Malcolm's jaw tightened, calculating risks and strategies. They had an ally now, but that also meant one more person in danger. He'd seen too many whistleblowers silenced in his FBI career to take this lightly. Back at the hotel, the Taylors entered the breakfast room with practiced casualness. Malcolm had chosen a table with clear sightlines to both exits, positioning himself to watch the entrance while appearing relaxed. "Remember," he whispered to Samantha and Elijah, "act natural. We're just having breakfast." Elijah nodded, clutching his mother's hand as they approached the buffet. The spread was impressive. Fresh pastries, made-to-order omelets, fruit platters arranged in rainbow patterns. But the atmosphere felt thick with tension. From his position, Malcolm spotted officers Marks and Riley at their usual corner table, nursing coffee cups and watching the room. Karen Foster, the hotel manager, hovered near the kitchen entrance, speaking in hushed tones with staff members while shooting furtive glances at the Taylors. "Can I get pancakes?" Elijah asked, his voice small but determined to maintain normalcy. "Of course, baby." Samantha helped him load his plate, her movements steady despite the weight of hostile stares. As they settled at their table, a young white girl around Elijah's age approached, carrying her own loaded plate. Her parents sat nearby, offering encouraging smiles. "Can I sit here?" she asked, pointing to the empty chair beside Elijah. "I like your Superman t-shirt." Elijah looked to his parents for permission. At their nods, his face brightened. "Thanks, I'm Elijah." "I'm Katie," the girl said, settling in. "I saw you swimming yesterday. You're really good." The children chatted about swimming, favorite cartoons, and the hotel's mini golf course. For a moment, the tension eased. Malcolm noticed Officer Riley shifting uncomfortably, clearly unsettled by the sight of the children's easy friendship. As Katie finished her pancakes, she leaned closer to Elijah, her voice dropping. "My dad says those police officers are bad news. He saw them hurt someone last summer. We're not supposed to talk about it." Before Elijah could respond, Katie's mother called her back. The girl gathered her plate, offering a small wave goodbye. Samantha squeezed Elijah's hand under the table, seeing his troubled expression. "It's okay, honey. Keep eating." A middle-aged black woman at the next table caught Samantha's eye, giving a subtle nod of understanding. As Samantha went to refill her coffee, the woman followed. "I'm Lorraine," she whispered, pretending to add cream to her cup. "Lorraine Carter. I work at the hospital, but I've lived here all my life. I know those officers." Samantha maintained her casual posture. "I'm Samantha Taylor. My husband's in prison because of them," Lorraine continued, her voice barely audible. "They planted evidence, falsified reports. Been doing it for years, targeting our people. But I've been gathering proof." Samantha's hand trembled slightly as she stirred her coffee. "What kind of proof?" "Security footage from the hospital parking lot. Shows them beating a teenage boy last month, then writing reports claiming he attacked them. I made copies before they could delete it." Lorraine's eyes darted to where the officers sat. "I've been waiting for the right moment, the right people to help expose them." "Why us?" "Because you're already fighting back. And your husband." Lorraine paused. "The FBI connection changes everything. They can't make this disappear so easily. How can we get the footage?" "Meet me in the laundry room in 20 minutes. Basement level. I volunteer here sometimes. They won't question me being there." Back at the table, Samantha whispered the plan to Malcolm. He nodded, already formulating security measures. 20 minutes later, Samantha made her way to the basement laundry room, a basket of clothes as her cover. The space was humid and loud with industrial machines. Lorraine stood folding sheets, a USB drive concealed in her palm. "It's all here," Lorraine murmured, slipping the drive into Samantha's hand as they passed. 6 months of evidence. Names, dates, patterns, everything they tried to bury. Samantha tucked the drive into her pocket, heart pounding. "Thank you. This could change everything." "Just promise me something," Lorraine said, her eyes intense. "Don't let them silence this. My James has been in prison for 3 years. He's innocent, but nobody would listen. Maybe now. We'll make them listen," Samantha assured her, feeling a surge of hope for the first time since the pool incident. "This ends now." They continued folding laundry for a few minutes, maintaining their cover. Through the rumble of dryers and hiss of steam presses, Samantha could almost hear the walls of injustice beginning to crack. The evidence in her pocket felt like a key, not just to exposing 2 corrupt officers, but to dismantling an entire system of oppression. "Same time tomorrow?" Lorraine asked as they finished. "I have more to share." Samantha nodded, squeezing the woman's hand in gratitude. "We'll be here." "And, Lorraine? We're going to get James home." Back in their suite, Malcolm locked himself in the bedroom, spreading Lorraine's evidence across the king-sized bed. His laptop glowed in the dim light as he connected the USB drive, revealing folders meticulously organized by date and incident. "Oh my God," he whispered, clicking through security footage from the hospital parking lot. The grainy video showed officers Marks and Riley surrounding a black teenager. The boy's hands were raised, but Riley struck anyway, the baton connecting with brutal force. Marks joined in, both officers beating the defenseless teen while shouting commands he couldn't possibly follow. In the living room, Samantha sat with Elijah, trying to distract him with a movie. But her son's eyes kept drifting to the window, where shadows of hotel staff passed suspiciously often. A housekeeper had already, accidentally, tried entering their room twice, despite the Do Not Disturb sign. "Mom," Elijah whispered, "why do they keep walking past?" "Try not to worry, baby." Samantha pulled him closer. "Focus on the movie." Malcolm's fingers flew across the keyboard, cross-referencing dates and names with his FBI database access. His breath caught as connections emerged. A pattern of brutality, false arrests, and covered-up complaints stretching back years. The same names kept appearing. Marks and Riley. "Son of a," Malcolm muttered, recognizing case numbers from his own investigation files. The corrupt officers he'd been sent to investigate were the same ones terrorizing his family. The realization made his stomach turn. A soft knock at the bedroom door. "Malcolm," Samantha called. "We need ice for Elijah's soda." Malcolm secured the laptop and evidence, tucking the USB drive into a hidden pocket. "I'll get it," he said, emerging from the bedroom. "Stay here with Elijah." The hallway felt unnaturally quiet as Malcolm walked toward the ice machine, his FBI training heightening his awareness of every shadow and sound. As he filled the bucket, heavy footsteps approached from behind. "Well, well." "Agent Taylor." Officer Riley's voice dripped with false friendliness. "Fancy meeting you here?" Malcolm turned slowly, maintaining his composure. "Officer Riley, can I help you?" "Just making my rounds." Riley stepped closer, invading Malcolm's space, making sure everyone feels safe. Unknown to either man, Elijah had crept to the suite's door, phone in hand. Through the crack, he steadied his device, recording the confrontation just as his father had taught him about documenting dangerous situations. "Is that a threat, officer?" Malcolm's voice remained calm, but his muscles tensed. "A threat?" Riley's laugh echoed off the walls. "Now why would you think that? I'm just doing my job. Like you're doing yours, investigating good cops, trying to stir up trouble in our town. So you know why I'm here." "We know a lot of things, Agent Taylor." Riley's smile vanished. "Like how federal agents should watch their backs in unfamiliar territory. Accidents happen." Malcolm's phone buzzed in his pocket. Without breaking eye contact with Riley, he retrieved it, reading the anonymous message. "You're in over your head, Agent." Riley's smirk confirmed he knew about the text. "Sleep tight, Agent Taylor. Keep your family close." The officer turned and stalked away, leaving Malcolm holding a melting bucket of ice. Back in the room, Elijah quickly closed the door and scrambled back to the couch, his hands shaking as he saved the video. Malcolm entered, setting down the ice. His expression told Samantha everything she needed to know. "They know," he said quietly, checking the room for listening devices. "About my investigation. About everything." Samantha hugged Elijah closer. "What do we do?" Malcolm secured the windows and door before retrieving Lorraine's evidence from its hiding place. "We keep this safe, and we keep Elijah with us at all times." He sat heavily on the couch. "I didn't know it when we arrived, but Marks and Riley are the same officers I've been investigating for months. Police brutality, evidence tampering, false arrests. They're at the center of it all." "Dad," Elijah spoke up, his voice small but steady. I recorded Officer Riley threatening you. He held up his phone. Like you taught me about keeping evidence. Malcolm and Samantha exchanged proud but worried looks as they watched their son's recording. The footage was clear, damning. Riley's threats unmistakable. "That's my brave boy," Samantha whispered, kissing Elijah's forehead. Sleep proved impossible that night. Malcolm secured the evidence in multiple locations, both physical and digital. Samantha kept Elijah close, both of them finally drifting off on the pull-out couch, while Malcolm stood guard, watching shadows move beneath the door, knowing that somewhere in the darkness their enemies were plotting. The night stretched endless, filled with footsteps in the hallway and muffled voices outside their window. Malcolm checked his weapon, verified his backup contacts, and prepared himself for whatever tomorrow might bring. But for now, his priority was clear: protect his family, protect the evidence, and make sure justice would finally come to this corrupt town. Malcolm's phone buzzed as he paced the hotel suite. The message made his blood run cold. "Parking lot. Now, or your family pays. Come alone." He glanced at Samantha and Elijah, curled up on the couch watching TV, their faces illuminated by the screen's soft glow. His jaw tightened. "I need to check something outside," Malcolm said, keeping his voice steady. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone but me." Samantha's eyes narrowed with concern. "What's wrong?" "Just a precaution." He kissed her forehead, then Elijah's. "Lock the door behind me." The hallway felt endless as Malcolm walked toward the elevator, his FBI training kicking in. He catalogued escape routes, defensive positions, potential weapons. His service weapon remained locked in the room's safe. Hotel policy. But he didn't need it. His hands were weapon enough. The parking lot stretched dark and empty before him, security lights casting long shadows between the cars. Malcolm's footsteps echoed on the asphalt as he moved cautiously through the rows of vehicles, senses heightened. Movement flickered in his peripheral vision. Before he could turn, a familiar voice cut through the night. "Evening, Agent Taylor." Detective Marks emerged from behind a pickup truck, Officer Riley flanking him from the opposite direction. "Nice night for a walk." Malcolm kept his stance relaxed but ready. "What do you want?" "Just a friendly chat." Riley twirled his baton with practiced menace. "About you sticking your nose where it doesn't belong." "We've known who you were from day one," Marks added, circling closer. "Did you really think we wouldn't recognize a Fed? This is our town. Your town of corruption and brutality?" Malcolm's eyes tracked both men. "That ends now." Riley lunged first, baton whistling through the air. Malcolm slipped the strike, grabbing Riley's extended arm and using the officer's momentum to slam him into a car door. But Marks was already there, wrapping his arms around Malcolm from behind. Malcolm dropped his weight, breaking Marks' grip with a sharp elbow strike. He spun away as Riley recovered, the baton missing his head by inches. "Your family's gonna pay for this," Riley snarled, pressing the attack. "That boy of yours looks like a swimmer. Be a shame if he had an accident in the pool." White-hot rage flared in Malcolm's chest, but he channeled it into precise movement. As Riley swung again, Malcolm stepped inside his guard, trapped the baton arm, and twisted. The weapon clattered to the ground as Riley howled in pain. Marks charged in, trying to tackle Malcolm to the asphalt. But Malcolm sprawled expertly, sprawling his legs back while driving his forearm into Marks's throat. The detective stumbled, gasping. "You're both done," Malcolm growled, maintaining his defensive stance. "The evidence is already secure. Multiple copies, multiple locations." "Evidence can disappear," Marks wheezed, "just like witnesses." Riley recovered his baton, blood trickling from his split lip. "And families." They attacked together this time, coordinated and vicious. Malcolm blocked a baton strike that numbed his forearm, ducked Marks's wild haymaker. His FBI combat training took over. Economy of motion, use their aggression against them, stay mobile. A glancing blow caught Malcolm's temple, sending warm blood trickling down his face. But he used the moment to trap Riley's arm, applying a textbook joint lock that dropped the younger officer to his knees, screaming. The click of a gun being cocked froze the scene. "Let him go," Marks commanded, his service weapon aimed at Malcolm's head. "Or I put you down right here." Malcolm maintained the hold on Riley, who whimpered in pain. "You really want to add murdering a federal agent to your charges? Who said anything about murder?" Marks's smile was cold. "You attacked 2 officers. We defended ourselves. Simple report to write." The parking lot fell silent except for Riley's labored breathing and the distant sound of traffic. Malcolm's muscles burned from exertion, blood dripping steadily from his temple. But his voice remained steady. "You pull that trigger, there's no going back. Everything comes out. The brutality, the cover-ups, all of it. Is protecting your corrupt little kingdom worth prison?" "Last chance," Marks growled, finger tightening on the trigger. "Let him go and back off, or I end this right now." Malcolm's grip remained firm on Riley's twisted arm as he stared down Mark's gun barrel, the moment stretching like a wire about to snap. The standoff shattered as a door slammed somewhere nearby. Marks flinched, and Malcolm seized the moment. He drove his shoulder into Marks's midsection while twisting Riley's arm harder, sending both officers sprawling. The gun skittered across the asphalt. "Inside! Move!" Malcolm commanded, herding them toward the hotel's rear service entrance. He needed witnesses, needed this confrontation documented. The officers scrambled up, Riley clutching his twisted arm, Marks lunging for his dropped weapon. Malcolm kicked it further away, forcing them through the door into a fluorescent-lit corridor lined with cleaning carts and laundry bins. Upstairs in their suite, Samantha paced frantically, her phone pressed to her ear. "Yes, this is regarding Agent Malcolm Taylor," she told the FBI dispatcher. "He's in immediate danger at the Lakeview Resort." Her hands shook as she detailed the situation. The moment she hung up, she dialed Cassie. "Malcolm's being attacked by those officers," she whispered urgently. "Back parking lot. We need help." In his parents' bedroom, Elijah crouched in the dark, his small hands gripping his phone. Every shadow made him jump. Every distant sound sent his heart racing. But he stayed put like his dad had taught him, ready to record anything he saw or heard. The service corridor erupted in chaos as Malcolm grappled with both officers. Riley swung his baton wildly, smashing a glass fire extinguisher case. Malcolm grabbed the extinguisher, spraying white powder into Riley's face. The officer stumbled back, choking and blind. Marks seized a mop from a nearby cart, wielding it like a staff. Malcolm deflected the first swing with his forearm, then trapped the handle against a wall. They struggled for control, muscles straining, until Malcolm drove his knee into Marks's ribs. The detective doubled over, losing his grip. "It's over," Malcolm declared, his voice carrying down the corridor. "The FBI has everything. Your brutality, your cover-ups, the kickbacks from the hotel. You got nothing," Marks wheezed, but fear crept into his voice. "We have Lorraine's footage. We have witnesses ready to testify. We have financial records linking you to every false arrest, every shakedown." Riley, still coughing from the powder, charged Malcolm from behind. Malcolm sidestepped, sending Riley crashing into a laundry cart. The cart rolled into a wall with a thunderous crash that echoed through the building. "Keep fighting," Malcolm advised coldly, "and add assaulting a federal agent to your charges." Marks spat blood onto the linoleum floor. "You think you're the first to try taking us down? This is our territory. We own this town. Not anymore." Malcolm advanced on them, his presence filling the narrow space. "How many families have you terrorized? How many lives have you destroyed to keep your power?" "They deserved it!" Riley shouted, his composure cracking. coming here, thinking they belong. Like my son? Malcolm's voice turned dangerous. An 8-year-old boy you threatened to drown? Should have done it when we had the chance, Marks growled. One less. Malcolm slammed him against the wall before he could finish, forearm pressed to his throat. Riley tried to intervene, but Malcolm swept his legs, dropping him hard. Say it again, Malcolm dared them, his controlled fury evident in every word. Threaten my family again. Give me a reason. Footsteps pounded down the corridor as hotel security finally responded to the commotion. But Malcolm heard something else. The subtle electronic tone of a recording device. He glanced up to see Samantha at the far end, her phone raised, capturing every word. Your badge won't protect you forever, Marks gasped against the pressure on his throat. No, Malcolm agreed, but your confession will bury you. He increased the pressure slightly. So keep talking. Tell everyone exactly who you are. Riley, sprawled on the floor, broke first. It was Marks's idea. The shakedowns, the false arrests. He organized everything with the hotel manager. Shut up! Marks tried to surge forward, but Malcolm held him firmly. The kickbacks? Malcolm pressed. The evidence you destroyed? Filing cabinet in Marks's garage, Riley babbled. It's all there. Photos, reports, everything. More footsteps approached, multiple sets, heavy and purposeful. Local police burst through one end of the corridor, while FBI agents entered from the other, weapons drawn. Cassie stood behind them, notebook in hand. Federal agents! A familiar voice called out. Everyone freeze! Malcolm maintained his hold on Marks as his FBI colleagues moved in. Perfect timing, he said calmly. These officers were just confessing to a rather extensive criminal conspiracy. The local police looked uncertain, torn between protecting their own and following federal authority. But the FBI agents quickly took control, cuffing both Marks and Riley. You okay, Taylor? His supervisor asked, noting his bloody temple. Malcolm nodded, finally releasing Marks to the custody of his fellow agents. Nothing that won't heal. He looked at Samantha, still recording. Did you get all that? Every word, she confirmed, her voice steady despite her obvious relief. Hotel guests and staff gathered at both ends of the corridor, watching in shocked silence as the two officers were led away in handcuffs. Malcolm heard someone ask, Are those the same cops from the pool incident? The very same, Cassie answered loudly, making sure everyone heard. And now we know why they were so afraid of being exposed. In the hotel's first-floor conference room, an FBI medic dabbed antiseptic on Malcolm's temple, while Samantha held his hand. Elijah sat close by, refusing to leave his father's side. Agents moved efficiently through the space, collecting statements and coordinating with the local police department's internal affairs division. You should get checked at the hospital, Samantha insisted, wincing at the bruising along Malcolm's ribs. Later, Malcolm promised. We need to finish this first. He squeezed her hand, managing a reassuring smile for Elijah. I'm okay, buddy. Just some scrapes. Through the conference room's windows, they could see the growing crowd in the lobby. Hotel guests clustered in small groups, sharing videos of the arrest on their phones. News vans had already started arriving, their satellite dishes visible in the parking lot. Cassie stood near the entrance, directing her camera crew and coordinating with other reporters. Two senior FBI agents entered, their expressions grim but satisfied. Agent Taylor, the lead agent said, we've secured the hotel's security footage and guest complaints going back 3 years. The pattern is clear. Systematic harassment targeting minority guests, all buried by management. Speaking of management, Samantha interjected, where's Karen Foster? As if on cue, they heard the hotel manager's voice rising from the lobby. This is completely unfair. We've always maintained the highest standards of... Save it, Karen! Lorraine Carter's voice cut through clearly. She stood surrounded by other community members who had arrived to show support. You knew what those officers were doing. You helped them target families like mine, like the Taylors. The manager's face flushed red. That's absurd. We would never. We have the deleted complaint files, an FBI tech announced, emerging from the hotel's administrative office with a laptop. They were trying to wipe the servers when we arrived, but we recovered everything. Years of buried incidents, all involving Officers Marks and Riley, all dismissed by Ms. Foster personally. Karen Foster's composure cracked. They threatened me, said they'd make trouble for the hotel if I didn't cooperate. And the kickbacks? Malcolm asked, standing despite the medic's protests. The cash payments for keeping quiet? The manager's mouth opened and closed silently. Hotel staff watched from behind the check-in desk, their expressions a mix of shame and relief, as the truth emerged. Elijah tugged at his mother's sleeve. Look, he whispered, pointing to the lobby windows. More people were arriving. Families they'd seen at the pool, local residents, even some of the hotel's housekeeping staff who had been afraid to speak up before. Cassie pushed through the crowd with her camera crew, capturing the scene as federal agents led Karen Foster away for questioning. Ms. Foster, she called out. Any comment on the evidence showing your direct involvement in covering up police brutality at your hotel? The manager ducked her head, hurrying past with an agent on each arm. The crowd parted, some people filming on their phones, others calling out questions or accusations. Agent Taylor, a federal prosecutor announced, entering the conference room, we'll need your family's formal statements, but this is already solid. The confession you obtained, combined with Ms. Carter's evidence and the hotel's records, we're looking at multiple federal civil rights violations. Samantha shared the video from her phone, the officer's threats and admissions playing clearly through the room's speakers. Even the hardened federal agents looked disturbed at the naked racism and brutality in their words. What about the other families? Samantha asked. The ones who were forced to leave? Who were afraid to come forward? We'll find them, the prosecutor assured her. This investigation is just beginning. Your courage in standing up, in gathering evidence, you've given others the strength to speak out too. Through the windows, they could see Lorraine talking to other community members, sharing her own story of persecution. Hotel guests who had witnessed the pool incident joined the group, adding their accounts. The wall of silence was crumbling. Time to get you out of here, Malcolm's supervisor decided. We've arranged secure transport and protection until this settles down. Malcolm nodded, wrapping one arm around Samantha and the other around Elijah. Let's go home. As they emerged from the conference room, the crowd in the lobby fell quiet. Then someone started clapping. The applause spread, growing louder as hotel staff, guests, and local residents joined in. Elijah gripped his parents' hands tightly, walking tall between them. You showed them, Dad, he said proudly. We all did, Malcolm corrected, including Samantha in his gaze. Together. FBI agents formed a protective corridor through the lobby, leading the family toward the exit. People reached out to touch their shoulders, offering words of support and gratitude. The hotel's head of housekeeping, an older black woman who had kept silent for years, pressed a hand to her heart as they passed. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for not backing down. Cassie's camera captured their exit, broadcasting live as the Taylors emerged into the evening air. The setting sun painted the sky in fierce oranges and purples, a fitting backdrop to their victory. More supporters waited outside, holding hastily made signs demanding justice and reform. This isn't over, Samantha said quietly as they approached their FBI escort vehicle. No, Malcolm agreed, watching another police car arrive with internal affairs investigators. But it's a start. A real start. In the stark fluorescent light of the FBI field office's main conference room, Malcolm stood before a panel of federal prosecutors and Department of Justice officials. His bruises had faded to yellowish patches, but his presence commanded attention. Behind him, a screen displayed photos, documents, and video evidence spanning years of systematic abuse. The pattern was clear, Malcolm explained, gesturing to a timeline of incidents. Officers Marks and Riley specifically targeted minority guests at the resort, but it went deeper than simple harassment. They'd created an intricate system of intimidation and cover-ups, with hotel manager Karen Foster's full cooperation. The lead prosecutor, Sarah Chen, leaned forward. And the financial angle? Malcolm clicked to the next slide, showing bank records. Monthly payments from the hotel's discretionary fund to both officers, disguised as security consulting fees. In exchange, they'd ensure complaints disappeared and victims left town quickly. Outside the conference room windows, news vans lined the street. Reporters had been camped out since dawn, their cameras ready for any official statement. The story had exploded across national media, with major networks picking up the footage of Malcolm's confrontation with the officers. The scope of victims is larger than initially estimated, Malcolm continued. Ms. Lorraine Carter's documentation proved invaluable. She'd been quietly collecting evidence for years after her husband's wrongful imprisonment. 23 families have come forward so far, each with similar experiences of harassment, threats, and forced departures. The DOJ Civil Rights Division chief nodded grimly. And the hotel's involvement? Systematic, Malcolm confirmed. Karen Foster maintained 2 sets of guest complaint records. The official log showed 0 incidents of discrimination or police misconduct. But our tech team recovered the deleted files, over 50 documented cases in 3 years alone. The conference room door opened, and an agent ushered in Samantha and Elijah. They'd been asked to attend this portion of the briefing. Elijah wore a small FBI visitor badge proudly on his chest, sitting tall beside his mother. Mrs. Taylor, Chen acknowledged, your video evidence of the officer's confession was crucial. And Elijah, your quick thinking with that phone recording made a real difference. Elijah smiled shyly, but his eyes shone with pride. Samantha squeezed his shoulder. We've received statements from hotel staff, another prosecutor added, shuffling through papers. Many felt trapped, afraid to report what they witnessed. The housekeeping supervisor, Mrs. Washington, provided particularly damning testimony about being forced to clean up evidence of physical altercations. Malcolm advanced to security camera footage showing Marks and Riley confronting various guests. Their tactics escalated over time. What began as verbal intimidation evolved into physical assaults, property damage, and explicit threats. They believed their badges made them untouchable. Not anymore, Chen stated firmly. The grand jury indictment lists 37 criminal counts against each officer, including civil rights violations, conspiracy, witness tampering, and extortion under color of law. Ms. Foster faces 18 counts related to the cover-up and financial fraud. The room fell silent as they watched one particularly disturbing clip of Riley shoving an elderly black man into a service corridor while Marks kept lookout. The date stamp showed it was just 2 months ago. The hotel chain's corporate office is in damage control mode, an FBI public affairs officer reported. They've announced a complete audit of all properties, mandatory civil rights training, and a victim compensation fund. Their stock has dropped 15% since the story broke. Samantha spoke up. What about the other victims? The ones who were too afraid to come forward before? Ms. Carter has been instrumental in reaching out to them, Chen replied. She's working with our victim services unit, helping families document their experiences. The statute of limitations hasn't expired on most cases. A junior agent entered with breaking news. Marks and Riley just appeared for arraignment. No bail. The judge cited flight risk and danger to the community. They're being transported to federal custody now. Scattered applause broke out in the room. Malcolm noticed Elijah watching him intently and gave his son a reassuring wink. "Agent Taylor," the FBI deputy director's voice came through the conference room speaker. "Your actions exemplified the highest standards of the Bureau. You maintained your cover despite personal risk, gathered crucial evidence, and protected both your family and the public. The Office of Professional Responsibility has reviewed the incident and fully commends your conduct." Malcolm nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir. But I had help." He looked at Samantha and Elijah. "My family showed real courage. They refused to be victims." "Indeed," the deputy director agreed. "Mrs. Taylor, your social media posts helped break the wall of silence. And young man, that phone video you took was very brave. You might have a future in law enforcement." Elijah beamed. Samantha wiped away a proud tear. The briefing concluded with a detailed review of new oversight measures being implemented at the local police department. Federal monitors would oversee hiring, training, and complaint investigations for at least 5 years. The hotel would operate under a consent decree, with regular civil rights audits and mandatory reporting of any police interactions with guests. As the officials filed out, many stopped to shake hands with the Taylors. Lorraine Carter waited in the hallway, surrounded by other families finally ready to tell their stories. The wall of silence had crumbled, replaced by determined voices demanding accountability. 2 weeks after the dramatic events at the resort, Malcolm sat at the kitchen table in their suburban home, sipping coffee and reading the morning paper. The headlines were bold. "Federal oversight begins at troubled police department," and "Hotel chain announces sweeping anti-discrimination reforms." Samantha leaned over his shoulder, still in her teaching clothes. "They're actually following through," she said, pointing to a photo of federal monitors entering the police station. "Lorraine texted me. They're reviewing every case Marks and Riley touched." "About time," Malcolm nodded, his bruises now barely visible. The FBI's Internal Affairs Division found 15 more complaints buried in their personnel files, dating back years. The morning sun streamed through their kitchen window, warming the familiar space that felt different now. Safer, somehow. Their ordeal had changed them, but not in the way their attackers intended. They were stronger. Elijah bounded down the stairs in his school uniform, clutching a paper. "Mom! Dad! Look what Ms. Rodriguez gave me!" He proudly displayed a certificate from his elementary school, recognizing his outstanding courage and quick thinking. Samantha hugged him close. "That's wonderful, honey. We're so proud of you." "The whole school knows what happened," Elijah said, pouring cereal. "Kids keep asking me to show them how to record videos secretly. Even Tommy Williams. He used to never talk to me." Malcolm exchanged a look with Samantha. Their son was processing the experience in his own way, finding confidence instead of fear. "Speaking of recognition," Malcolm said, pulling an envelope from his briefcase. "The FBI director wants us at headquarters next week. They're giving me the Distinguished Service Award." "Malcolm, that's amazing!" Samantha exclaimed. "It's not just for me," he explained. "They want to honor our whole family. And Lorraine will be there too. They're acknowledging her years of documentation that helped break the case." The doorbell rang. It was a delivery. Flowers and a card from Samantha's school district. The superintendent had publicly praised her courage, using their story in anti-discrimination training. Her students had created a wall of supportive messages in her classroom. "Did you see the latest about Karen Foster?" Samantha asked, arranging the flowers. "She's cooperating with prosecutors now. Turned over years of hidden records, not just from our hotel, but 3 others where she worked before." Malcolm nodded grimly. The pattern went deeper than anyone suspected. But people aren't afraid to speak up anymore. That's the real victory. His phone buzzed. A text from Lorraine. Her husband James was being released today, his conviction overturned after review. Marks and Riley had planted evidence in his case. The photo showed James walking out of prison, Lorraine by his side, both beaming. "Can we go to the pool today?" Elijah asked hopefully. "Coach says I missed too much practice." Samantha hesitated for just a moment, then smiled. "Of course we can, sweetie." In fact, she pulled out her phone, sending quick texts. "Let's make it a celebration." That afternoon, they arrived at their local community pool to find friends and supporters waiting. Lorraine and James were there, along with other families who'd reached out after hearing their story. Elijah's swim team cheered when he walked in. The atmosphere was festive but meaningful. Parents who'd never spoken before were sharing stories, building connections. A local civil rights organizer handed out Know Your Rights cards. Even the pool staff seemed more attentive, more conscious of treating everyone equally. Elijah cannonballed into the water, splashing his teammates. His laughter echoed across the pool deck. Pure, unrestrained joy. "Remember how nervous we used to be?" Samantha murmured to Malcolm. "Always watching, always worried." "Now we're the ones being watched," Malcolm replied, nodding toward a cluster of admiring parents. "But for the right reasons." They found seats by the water, surrounded by their growing community. James Carter stopped by, still adjusting to freedom, but eager to thank them. "What you did gave us all courage," he said quietly. "Made people believe justice was possible." A splash war erupted in the pool, kids of all backgrounds playing together, while parents chatted easily on the deck. The fear and tension that had once haunted such spaces was dissolving, replaced by something stronger: solidarity. "Look at him go," Samantha said proudly, as Elijah raced another boy across the pool. Their son moved through the water with confident strokes, no longer glancing around nervously or staying close to the edges. Malcolm squeezed her hand. He's not the only one who's stronger now. They watched as Lorraine introduced James to other families, their story inspiring more people to come forward. The local news had reported that 5 more wrongfully convicted men were having their cases reviewed. The ripples of change kept spreading. The late afternoon sun sparkled on the pool water, creating dancing patterns of light. Children's laughter mixed with adult conversation, creating a soundtrack of community healing. Here, in this moment, the Taylors could see the real impact of their stand for justice, not just in headlines or courtrooms, but in the simple freedom to enjoy a summer day at the pool, surrounded by friends who'd become allies. I hope you enjoyed that story. Please share it with your friends and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. In the meantime, I have handpicked 2 stories for you that I think you will enjoy. Have a great day.